All right, let's dive right in. What happens when your most deeply held beliefs, the very core of who you are, run smack into a law? Today, we're getting into that incredibly complex and personal space where conscience, the law, and you all meet.
I mean, think about it. What if the law actually forced you to betray something you believe in, deep down in your soul? It's a huge question, right? It gets to the heart of what it means to be free. Where does your moral duty stop and your legal duty start? Well, let's try to unpack that.
Okay, so first things first. Before we can even touch the legal side of things, we have to be on the same page about what we're actually talking about when we say conscience. It's a word we throw around a lot, but for a lawyer or a judge, it means something very, very specific and very powerful.
So what is it really? It's not just, a gut feeling or having a preference for one thing over another. No. Legally speaking, conscience is this deep, internal sense of moral obligation. It's that voice inside that gives you a profound awareness of right and wrong. It's the part of you that doesn't just suggest, but insists that you have to do something or that you absolutely cannot do something else, regardless of what anyone else says.
And this is a really crucial distinction the law makes. Think about it. An opinion, that's something you can argue about, maybe even change your mind on. It's a judgment call. But conscience, that's a whole different level. It's a sincere, deeply held moral duty. It's not about what's inconvenient, it's about what you feel is fundamentally wrongful. It's tied to your very identity. And that, right there, is why the courts treat a claim of conscience with so much weight.
Okay, so that leads us to maybe the single most important idea in this entire area of law. Seriously, if you get this one distinction, the whole puzzle starts to make sense. It's all about the line between belief and action.
All right, listen to this, because it's a big one. The law draws a line around your inner world, your thoughts, your beliefs, your conscience, and basically says, state, you can't come in here. It's a sanctuary. They can't force you to believe something you don't. And that freedom, it's absolute. I mean, literally, absolute. No ifs, ands, or buts, no exceptions. But, and this is a huge but, the second that belief steps out of your head and into the real world as an action, well, that's when everything changes. The right to act on your belief is not absolute. It can be limited. Why? To protect things like public safety, public health, or crucially, the rights and freedoms of other people. And that pivot from thought to action is where all the sparks fly. It's the source of pretty much every legal fight we see over conscience.
So, how do courts and governments actually handle this? If your actions can be limited, what are the rules of the game? Well, different legal systems have different playbooks for managing this tension. Let's take a look at a few of them. You can see right away there's not just one way to do this. In Canada, for example, their Charter of Rights and Freedoms is all about balancing. They'll literally weigh an individual's right to conscience against what society needs. Down in the United States, the First Amendment is huge, and a lot of it is about anti-compulsion, the idea that the government can't force you to say or do something that violates your beliefs. And then you have international law, which actually gives some of the clearest, strongest language protecting conscience, really hammering home that difference between belief and action.
So this brings up a really important point. The government can't just step in and limit your actions because it feels like it. No way! They have to jump through some serious hoops. They have to show that they're acting in good faith, that their goal is legitimate and substantial, and, this is key, that the way they're limiting you is proportionate. It has to be necessary for things like public safety or the rights of others. These rules are basically a leash on state power, designed to stop them from interfering with you without a very, very good reason.
Okay, enough with the legal theory for a minute. Let's talk about where the rubber meets the road. Where do these high-stakes clashes over conscience actually play out in our daily lives? Well, you tend to see them pop up again and again in a few specific areas.
Yeah, these are pretty much the main battlegrounds. You've got employment, think about requests for religious holidays off work. You have education with debates over school curriculum. Healthcare is a huge one, right? Especially around certain medical procedures. Then there's expression, being forced to promote a message you disagree with. And of course, the classic case that goes way back, conscientious objection to fighting in a war.
And healthcare is such a perfect way to see how this works in practice. Take a look at this. In New York, the law really leans toward protecting the individual's conscience. A healthcare worker can refuse to assist with certain procedures. But up in Ontario, the balance is struck differently. Their big concern is making sure the patient can get the care they need. So a doctor can object, but they're still required to make what's called an effective referral. Basically, they have to connect the patient with someone who will help. It's the same problem, but two very different solutions, each prioritizing something different.
All right, so we've gone through the philosophy, the legal rules, the real-world fights. What's the main takeaway from all of this? Well, it boils down to this. In a society like ours, with so many different beliefs, freedom of conscience is a really powerful and protected right. But it isn't unlimited. It's conditional.
So, let's put it all together. Here are the key things to remember. First, your freedom to believe whatever you want in your own head, that's ironclad. It's absolute. But the freedom to act on that belief, that's where things get complicated. It's protected for sure, but it's conditional. Courts and lawmakers are always doing this delicate dance, trying to balance an individual's conscience against big public goals like safety, equality, and access to services for everyone. There's no magic formula here. It's a constant negotiation, and in a way, it's how we as a society figure out what we truly value.
And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? In a society packed with people who have all sorts of different, deeply held beliefs that sometimes clash with each other, who gets to draw the final line? Who decides where your personal conscience ends and the needs of everyone else begin? It's a question our courts, and really all of us, have to wrestle with every single day.